Hi there, my name is Elena and welcome to my channel. In this video, we will learn how to draft a basic bodice block to your or anybody else's measurements. It is a completely beginner-friendly tutorial that anyone can recreate. Blocks are also called basic patterns, slopers, or foundation patterns. So for those of you who are completely new to sewing, a block is the basic body shape that contains all of its measurements plus ease allowance. This will make them the perfect foundation for most future patterns. There are multiple ways of drafting the basic bodice. The one that I will show you is sort of a mix of a couple of them. I suggest you watch this video till the end one time before you start doing anything. This way you will know exactly what tools and information you will need. We will start it by me showing what measurements will be needed for this specific method and how to take them correctly. For the neck, we wrap around the base our measuring tape and we crisscross it in the front. In the back, make sure that the tape is not higher or lower than our 7th cervical. Here I'm showing you another angle. This is the base of the neck, our 7th cervical vertebra. Now our bust. We wrap around the most prominent area of our bust, making sure that the loop we form with the tape is parallel to the floor, just like the green line that you see on the bust of my mannequin. We measure the waist. If you have a belly or a different body shape, always orient yourself to the level of your elbows. When you're standing upright with your arms straight, our elbows are always at the level of our waist. And if you have a belly, then in the front you will go down from 2 to 4 centimeters. The hip line we measure the same as the bust. We find the widest part and our measuring tape needs to be parallel with the floor. If you have wider hips, as you see here in the picture, then your hip line will be lower than the actual bottom line. And that's okay as long as you've got the widest part so that your garment can fit properly. Our waist to hip measurement, we measure in the middle of the front, the distance between the waistline and the hip line. Our front length, we start at the base of the neck, through the apex and down to the waistline. Very important detail is to let the measuring tape fall straight from the apex to the waistline. Don't try to contour the underbreast area. This is our bust length. We start at the base of the neck and go down the apex, just like we did for the front length. Our back width is the widest part of our back and it is usually placed at the level where your armpits begin in the back. But of course, it all depends on your body shape. Back length begins at the 7th cervical and all the way down to the waistline, down the middle of the back. The shoulder length we measure from the base of the neck till the edge of the shoulder. Our overbust is the line on top of our bust from armpit to armpit. It is also in the most of the cases the widest part of our chest. Not for everyone though. These are the measurements we just took. Please make sure that all the ones up until the back length are all divided by 2. I'll mark for myself the end measurement that I'll be using for my calculations so I don't get confused later on. Here you can also double check yourself if you got them all right. And there you go. Keep this close by because we will be using it a lot. As you can see, I already drew my bodice using pencil. This will serve me as a guide just because I want to avoid having to bend over real close to my canvas and getting my head into the frame and covering it all up. Please remember that being precise with your calculations and the actual drawing is key here if you want to get good results. So if you see imprecisions in my drawing during this video, that is because I cannot get close enough to see well what I'm doing because of the camera. So please don't repeat after me. Do it as neat and as precise as possible. Okay, so we will go all over from the beginning, step by step. I will be using different colored markers, red for the back bodice and blue for the front bodice. We will start by building the grid, the general grid that will be housing half of our front and half of our back bodice. First, we will trace this vertical line here. From the top of the page, leave about 10 centimeters. I left out less just because I know how much I will need to go up from my size, but if you're someone with a fuller bust, don't leave less than 8 to 9 centimeters. But better safe than sorry, just leave out 10 centimeters. We make this line as long as we want our garment to be. In my case, for the sake of this tutorial, I don't have to make it longer than the hip line. So we go ahead and we trace this vertical line. You know what? The graph paper would come in really handy for projects like this. It makes the job so much easier and you don't have to hustle with the vertical and perpendicular lines. So if you can, get yourself one of those. Now we have our line. At the very top here, we have the point of our 7th cervical vertebra. And this will be our neckline. Now we are going to find our waistline. And our waistline will be our back length measurement plus 1 centimeter. So let's write this down here. The waistline is the back length plus 1 centimeter. And in my case, that is 39.5 plus 1, and it equals to 40.5. Now I measure from the top the 40.5 centimeters, and that will be our waistline. Now in order to find our bust line, this dimension here, we divide it by 2 and then we add 2 centimeters. So our bust line is 40.5 divided by 2 plus 2, and that is, if I round it up, 22.5. It's actually 22.25, but I'll just round it up. So then I go and I measure from the very top the 22.5 centimeters, and we have our bust line. Okay, so now we need to find our hip line. This is our waist to hip measurement. In my case, it's 21. Let's see what I'm getting when we calculate it using the formula. And it is this measurement 40.5 that we've calculated before. So it's 40.5 divided by 2 and minus 3. So this is a constant, and this one too, for any size. This is in case you don't have this measurement. And here's the tricky part. You see what's the result? 17.25, and my actual measurement is 21. In my case, this formula didn't really work. I built this bodice for a bunch of different people with different sizes, and it worked perfectly. The difference was always very insignificant, and anyways, we can't really count to get exactly our numbers out of the formulas that are meant for all sizes and shapes. So this is why you need to make sure that you have all these sizes so you can double check yourself. But usually these formulas don't disappoint, and I've noticed that they work even better for bigger sizes. Back to our hip line. So we go down 21 centimeters from the waistline, and here we have our hip line. Our next step is calculating the width of our grid and drawing it out, of course. So the width of our grid will be half of our bust size. So half bust plus whatever ease allowance you want to use. So since we're building half of the front, half of the back, right? And we're taking half of the bust, you will also take half of the ease allowance that you're going to use. In my case, I want to use 3 centimeters per total. I want it to be pretty snug. For part 2 of this tutorial, I will sew a dress and I will show you everything. I'm adding half of the 3, and that makes 1.5. And this will be 46 plus 1.5. And it equals to 47.5. So we go from this point here and we trace our horizontal line. Now we can go ahead and trace the other vertical line and the bust, waist, and hip lines, just as you see me doing it here. I am using the different colors to differentiate for you guys the back and the front, and I'm also leaving out the dark gaps in the middle. You shouldn't do that, just extend all the lines across the grid with no gaps. Now that we have our grid drawn out, we're gonna start working on our back bodice. We start by calculating the width of our neckline. The formula for that is half of our neck measurement. So half neck divided by 3 plus 1, and that is 20 divided by 3 plus 1, it equals to 7.6, and I will round it up to 7.5. So I am placing here from this point horizontally the 7.5 centimeters, and that is gonna be my neckline. There you go, 7.5. Now from this point here, we go perpendicularly up 2.5 centimeters. I'll use black. This is 2.5 centimeters. The 2.5 is for all the sizes, except that you know that your shoulders are more slanted than usual, In this case, start with 3 centimeters. Now we go ahead and connect these points with a nice curved line forming our back neckline. And I will actually use my marker. Did you see what I did there? Oh my god, I guess I need a break. Okay, so this will be the shape of our neckline. The next step is marking our back width. This is our back width size. We're using half of it. I'm going to give you the formula how to calculate this size in case you don't have it, because it's not always easy to measure it on yourself unless you have someone to help you, and preferably needs to be someone with a good eye. This formula always worked for me. We'll use half of our bust size, divided to 3 and plus 2 centimeters. And that is 46 in my case, you see, the half bust size, divided by 3 plus 2, and it equals to 17.33. And you see, half of my back width is 17.5, and so far I always got accurate results with this one. So we measure from this point our 17.5. You measure your size. Please don't get confused using the sizes that I'm using here in this video. And we mark our back width. And from here we go perpendicularly up. We need this line for creating the sleeve curve. From the top, we measure 2 centimeters down, and this will create the second point for our shoulder line. Now that we have these 2 points, we can go ahead and trace our shoulder line. Here we use our shoulder length. In my case, it's 12.5. Now we are going to build our shoulder dart. This is our shoulder dart. The rule says that the dart should be placed at the distance of 1/3 of the shoulder length. In my case, that is 4.16, and I round it up to 4.5. We measure the 4.5 from the top of the shoulder line, and that will be the middle of our dart. We go perpendicularly down from the mark, and I make it 8 centimeters long. I will make it 2 centimeters wide, so 1 per each side, and we go ahead and we connect both sides to the tip of the dart. Now that we have the dart here, think that when we sew it, we take away 2 centimeters from our shoulder length. Therefore, we need to add back these 2 centimeters. We need to end up having the exact length of our shoulder. A little demonstration here. This is why we have the shoulder dart. Usually more or less, but we're going to have this extra fabric here. So with the help of our dart, we basically do this. And all the extra fabric is pulled away into the dart. But then we get this gapping here, and this is why we add those extra centimeters to make up for the fabric that was pulled into the dart. Now, of course, depending on how rounded forward your shoulders are, or if you have a hump, the amount of gapping or loose fabric here will vary. Start with 2 centimeters, and then when you do your first try-on, you can determine if you need to take in more. Now we are going to calculate the width of our armhole. We calculate it by using our bicep measurement. The formula is bicep divided by 3 and plus 4, and that is 29 divided by 3 and plus 4, and it equals to 13 and 6, and I round it up to 13.5. So we put down this measurement here, starting from the back width mark. And then we draw the perpendicular line. And this is our armhole width. Now, in order to find the side seam, we divide this 13.5 measurement by 2 and minus 1 towards the back. So this front size will be 1 centimeter longer than the back. In my case, that is 575. So 13.5 divided by 2 and minus 1 makes 575, and we place this mark here and on the neckline as well, and it goes all the way down. Now we divide this line into 3 equal parts. And we connect this mark with this mark and with this one here. We connect it with a nice curved line. This bisector line here should be 2.5 or 3 centimeters. In my case, it's 2.5. This is a line that splits that 90-degree angle in half. And I will go ahead and trace the shoulder and the back arm lines. Let's start working on our back and side darts. So these are the values that you begin with, and later on you can adjust them by adding more or taking out some, but this is your starting point. Let's see first the placement of our back dart. In order to find the middle of this dart, so this mark here, it is this measurement here divided by 2. So half back width divided by 2, and we mark it on the waistline and hip lines, and we trace our middle dart line. The width of the dart for now will be 1 centimeter each side. And we connect it all the way to this point. On the lower part, we go 3 centimeters up from the hip line, and we connect each side to this new mark. And this is our back dart ready. For our side seams, we also start with 1 centimeter each side. Remember we said that this is our side seam, so on our waistline, we mark 1 centimeter per each side, and we connect it. This is a default value, you don't want to change this. Well, actually, you don't want to make it less than 1 centimeter, but you can always add, depending on the incline you need. And then here, this is our back curve. We start with 1.5. If you want to, you can start with 1 centimeter if you don't have a big curve here. You can start with less. And we go up to the middle point of this measurement. So divide this in 2 and connect our dart. And then this one, we should make a slightly curved line and connect it somewhere around the 3rd. Don't make it too curved out, like so. This will give a really nice fit. Okay, so these are the darts of the back bodice. Now we need to figure out the placement of the side seam for our hip line. So as you see, they will overlap. The formula for this one, again, didn't really work for my measurements. So let's see. The formula should give you the amount of how much you need to add to each side. So we use the half hips measurement. So half hips minus half of our bust size divided by 2 and minus 1. These are constants for any size, just reminding you again. And that is 51.5 minus 46 divided by 2 minus 1. And that is, this is 2.75 minus 1, and it makes 175. So this means that we have to place 1.75 centimeters to each side of the seam, and for me that's not enough. It's too little, and even if I add everything up, it doesn't even give me the full hip size. So in this case, what do we have to do? We have to measure everything and see how much more we need to add. I measure mine and I see that I need to add 6 more centimeters, so I have comfortable ease allowance. You can add more or less depending on what fit you want. Sometimes this can even give you a negative value or 0. Just warning you, it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. Just measure these lines, see how much you have. Well, let's do it together. You do it this way. You measure them. So this line is 23.3. Then I have 24.3. So if I sum that and multiply by 2, because we have halves, that makes 95.2. And my hip measurement is 103. Therefore, I am adding 12 centimeters per total. That is 3 and 3, and that makes 107.2. So I'm adding 3 to the front bodice and 3 to the back. And then we connect these lines, and I'll trace all the side seams with the corresponding colors. And also let's trace this dart here. It got left out. There you go. And our back bodice is ready. We start building our front bodice by figuring out how much we have to lengthen it from the main neckline. We have to go up because of this difference that we have between our front length and our back length, and this size will vary depending on how full your bust is. If you have a fuller bust, this can be even 5, 6, 7 centimeters. We calculated by using this formula. We use the front length measurement minus our back length divided by 3 plus 1.5. So in my case, that is 42.5 minus 39.5 divided by 3 plus 1.5. And that is 3 divided by 3 plus 1.5, and it makes 1.5. If something doesn't come out right here, and you don't have a full bust, then always start with 1.5 or 2 centimeters, or even 1 centimeter if you have a small bust. If you have a full bust and maybe you don't have these measurements, then always start with 5-6 centimeters, and then you can always make adjustments during your first muslin fitting. We go ahead and we place our extension value here. Then we trace this parallel line to our main neckline. Now on this line we place the width of our neck, exactly the same one we placed here. In my case it's 7.5, I'll go ahead and mark it down. Now in order to find out what's the depth of our neck, we calculate it with the following formula. We use half of our neck size, so half neck divided by 2 and minus 1.5, and that is 20 divided by 2 minus 1.5, and it makes 8.5. I am not marking 8.5, I will mark instead 4.5, just because I want my neckline to be really up high, like over the collarbones. You can decide for yourself what height and shape you want for your neckline. We measure from here, not from this point, from this one, and we go down and place our mark. Now we draw out the shape of our neckline. You have to make sure that here it goes perpendicular. You have to have a 90-degree angle. Remember here we went down 4.5 centimeters on the shoulder line for the back dart? This same exact 4.5 centimeters we place here. So from the base of the neck we measure 4.5. Now we need to create the incline for the shoulder line. So from this point we go down perpendicularly 1.5 centimeters. In my case, it matches with the size of the extension. It's here, and we measure again from the base of the neck 4.5 centimeters, but now connecting it to the new lowered mark. And you need to make sure that the length is 4.5, as because of the incline, the line will be a couple of millimeters longer. From this point here, from the base of our neck, we go down parallel to our grid line by exactly, actually I made a mistake, my bust height is 27.5. So from this point we measure down our bust height. In my case that is 27.5. Parallel with this line. Then from this point we go down, also parallel, exactly to the level of this mark. If you want to make it easier for yourself, you can trace an auxiliary line here, and you will know exactly where to stop. So we trace this line. In my case, it comes out to 26 centimeters exactly. Now we need to calculate the length of the opening for our dart, and we calculate it by using this formula. Half of our bust size divided by 4 minus 0.5. So in my case that is 46 divided by 4 minus 0.5. And the final result is 11. So 11 centimeters is the opening of my dart. I have to correct my 4.5 centimeter line. I started it too high, got confused by the marker from our neckline. The actual intersection for the base of the neck is a bit lower. You see here? Now we go ahead and we create another auxiliary line by elongating the 4.5 centimeter one and keeping its incline. And we mark down our 11 centimeters on our auxiliary line. Now we get this new mark here. Now we can connect these 2 points, and we have to make this line exactly as long as this other one. So in my case, it's 26 centimeters. And it ends here. They have to be equal because we are going to connect them when we sew or when we move the position of our darts. Now under a 90-degree angle, so perpendicular to this line, we draw a line starting from our last mark. This is the rest of our shoulder line. So I have 4.5 centimeters here, and the length of my shoulder is 12.5. Minus 4.5, so I need 8 centimeters, and I place 8 centimeters here. Now again we have to adjust the incline, so we go down also perpendicular to this line, but this time we go down by 2 centimeters. And from this point we connect the line. And we have to have 8 centimeters, and it's right here. So this is our shoulder. Now we draw out this line here. We need to make sure that around this level, it's a little bit less than 1/4 of this line. We need to have our over bust measurement. In my case, it's 18. We measure here, see how much we're missing, and we place it on this side. And then we connect these 3 dots. So we need to make sure that we have enough here for our over bust area. In my case, I need to add 7 more centimeters. Now I have these 3 marks, and I go ahead and connect them with the curved line. We will work on our front dart now, but I will start by addressing this line here. If you have a very small bust, then just ignore this. If you have a medium or full bust, then I suggest you do it because this will make the front waistline look perfect. So we go and we lower the front waistline. I find that for my bust size, 6 millimeters work perfect. I go down 6 millimeters and I trace this new waistline until the edge of the dart. I'm making it 1.5 centimeters per each side, and per total it's 3. The middle of the dart is just the continuation of this line that we previously built. So we place the widest part of our dart on our new waistline, and then we connect. I went 4.5 centimeters lower than the tip of this dart, and I connect the upper side of the dart. Down here we go 4 centimeters up from the hip line and connect everything. And here we have to bring up to the side seam our new waistline, just like so. If you lower your waistline, then you have to do exactly the same thing at the bottom of your garment. Only now you will bring it till the line that is the middle of the front dart, and from there connect it to the edge of your side seam. Remember, if you have a full bust, then you have to lower it by 1 or 1.5 centimeters. And in this case, at the bottom of your garment, you will have a sharper angle. Don't forget to soften it with a curved line. And do the same thing up here. Now regarding all the darts on the waistline. You have to go and measure all the spaces between the darts, add them up and multiply by 2. See if that is the right amount for you for your waist measurement. I like to make it 2.5–3 centimeters bigger than my actual size. If your number is too high, it means you have to make your darts bigger, by which you will take away from your waistline, making it smaller. And correspondingly, if your number is too low, you have to make your darts smaller, which will increase your waistline. Our basic bodice is ready, and this is the end of part 1 of our tutorial. Thank you so much for watching, and please stay tuned for part 2, where we will transfer the darts and make a dress using this bodice. See you next time!